All right, welcome back. And for our last segment, we are jumping into the question block. So if you don't know what this is, first of all, the question block was inspired by the work of some great people over at oneup.com. And we have 4 minutes to answer community-submitted questions. So we're going to start with Rich TaienQuinn. And we might give this one an extra minute just because it might be...
We're breaking the laws on the first thing?
Yeah, we are breaking the law on the first thing.
Crossing the streams, going
so
in the black hole.
I don't normally do this, but there is a lot to this question. So
right.
This is one of the few times. Also, please bear in mind if you submit a question to nvc@ign.com, try and keep it brief and don't ask like a barrage of questions because it's really hard to put on a segment.
Pick your favorite question.
Yeah,
you can always come back next week.
Yeah, exactly. So
we'll be here.
Here is his question. Games like Metroid Fusion and Skyward Sword are often criticized for being more linear than other games in their respective franchises. But Fusion had sequence breaking designed into the game, and Zelda had a 3-dragon quest that could be completed in any order, a Zelda Skyward Sword. With that in mind, are these features designed to apologize for being more linear? And do you think that the story is more open? And do you think that the story in more open world games, like A Link Between Worlds, or any other games for that matter, suffer from being more open?
Yeah, I have a lot of opinions on that one, actually.
Okay,
because I play a wide variety of games. I love Elder Scrolls Skyrim. But if you ask me what the heck happened in that game, I'm like, dragons, the guy, like, I was stuck in a painting once. It doesn't have a thread going to it. And that's because you step into the world and it's completely open, right? Like at Fallout 3, like all these great games, you get a little bit more of a thread through games like Grand Theft Auto that have very story-driven segments, but they still don't have that kind of confined, like that Hollywood quality story like one of those games does. Uncharted is 100% linear, and I step away and I just love the experience. And so I can't say that I always love open world. The Zelda games have the benefit, though, that they have a storyline and then they have the MacGuffin. And the MacGuffin is usually like 5 amulets or 3 amulets or 5 shards.
Then they
or
run
whatever,
it into
right?
the ground when they keep bringing it back.
So,
but continue.
But that is the part where they give you the illusion of choice. And I think that's really smart, right? Like you have this story, it's very confined. There's a point A to a point B where you stab the guy in the head, as you so eloquently put at our live show. But it's like they give you that middle segment where you feel like you have freedom. I love that. I think it's great.
But I like open. So the counter to part of what you had to say, though, I like open world just because there is sort of an emergent narrative out of that, and it is my story. I could say, like, I remember overhearing Jeremy talk about Skyrim, which is a game I appreciate but don't really love because of its combat. I'm not a fan. But I think the world is fantastic because it's so realized. But he was telling me about a quest he discovered where he got drunk, and it was basically it was sort of like a weird version of The Hangover, where he found out that he wakes up at a church and he broke some sacred relic, and now the priest is screaming at him in the morning. And I think that's really fun to discover things like that and have sort of your story instead of just that story. However, in Zelda's, I do want a story. I do want a point A to point B, like, in an open world, and I think that's really hard to do.
And I always feel like, the game is not The Legend of Link. It's not an I story like Elder Scrolls. It is a story about there's this princess fated to be someone or control the universe or something like that. Where that more linear quality, I think, works really well because you're following her trail in a way. And like Final Fantasy games, sometimes I like that too. Some are actually a little bit too linear when it's literally you're walking down a corridor from point A to B, like the later ones, right? But like Final Fantasy like 6 and 7 had this kind of this choice. It's almost an illusion of choice, but you are still following a thread of certain things you have to do to get to the end.
Sure, Brian, look at Skyward Sword and Fusion. Like, where do you sit in terms of presentation and it being sort of more linear?
I think, so they're benefiting of the times more than they are of good game design. Like, I honestly think that if Metroid and Zelda were made for the first time ever now, there would be a map and there'd be indicators telling you everywhere to go. And those games wouldn't be as open world as we remember them to be. Like, a lot of things back then were like that, and they were like, oh, they let you do whatever you want. Because they didn't know how to tell you to do anything else.
Yeah.
Right? They didn't know how to lead the story along.
They didn't want to balance. They're like, what if you die in the first 10 minutes? Like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
That's fine. Whereas, like, now developers are really worried about having you get frustrated.
Sure,
right?
sure. And I loved Zelda, and I loved being able to start out and walking in any direction and being like, oh, look what I found. And I think I went too far before I should have. And that's actually what I did with a game like Fallout. Within 45 minutes, I was like 5 areas past where I should be. All I had was like a knife and a spoon, and I was addicted to like radiation or whatever. And I'm fighting this guy who's like 15 levels past me, and I'm like, I don't know how I got here. This is bad. But I think a lot of that has to do with deciding exactly how you want to tell the story, and I think there's ways to push and pull that, and it's finding that balance. And we've only been doing this for so long, making games for so long, where we have all the tools available to us to tell the story and also give people freedom. So there's a push and pull, and we're going to have some examples where there's not enough at all, like Zelda or Metroid. If you play Metroid 2 on the Game Boy, like, you have no idea where you are for most of that game. There are no signs anywhere. You're backtracking constantly.
Everything looks the same.
Everything looks the same, and that's not because like it's a genius level design of showing Samus in this world alone and immersion. It's because they didn't know how else to do that.
And I would say non-linearity does not mean open world necessarily, or complete freedom of choice. Like the Walking Dead Telltale games are the most linear experiences you can construct. Right?
They're really good.
But you come back and you talk to your friends and you're like, oh man, yeah, blah 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 died in the first chapter, and the other guy goes like, no, he didn't die, and they give you this illusion that the story is actually different from each character. It's not, right? Like it all comes to the same point. And I think Nintendo could play a little bit more with that, where it truly feels like we're having different experiences, even though the kind of their point ABC are still there.
And there we go. All right, good job.